I'm fine.
This is Oscar Bevis for IFL TV, Costakis Evangelou. Josie, my friend, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me at Edmonton Eagles today. We've got a lot to talk about yourself, your journey, and perhaps a little bit from the other side about what we, as fans and lovers of the sport, want from boxing. So a lot to kind of tuck into today. But first off, how are we on this fine Tuesday?
Well, fine. I had a busy day today. I was in Loughborough University. I went to see a boxer that actually managed Ezra Taylor, just to speak to him about sponsorship, about his program, because he's been actually trained by Angel Fernandez at the moment. So we went with the team, his promotional team, to see what he's doing.
Yeah, Ezra, obviously a friend of the channel and someone that I personally absolutely love. So your story is, well, it's brilliant. The BBC came and done a piece on you for a reason. It was the Boxing Bishop was kind of the moniker that they gave, and they done a piece on you for a reason. Like I said, really interesting. So just kind of want to, I guess not briefly, but in a bit of detail, kind of tell me how it went from growing up in Cyprus to coming over to England, and perhaps your involvement in boxing and kind of everything that came in the middle.
All right, good question. I try not to be long. I try and be as brief as I can. I was born in Cyprus. I came to England actually when I was 1 year old with my parents. My parents came to find work and so forth, as they do, and grew up in England as a young immigrant, if you like, from Cyprus. There was many challenges I was facing. I was streetwise for much of my life. School didn't interest me when I was younger, so I'd like to be out with my friends, and you get involved in sort of scuffles and fights and all these kind of things. And the one sport that really appealed to me above everything else was boxing, because it was something that you were in control yourself. You didn't rely on a team, you relied on yourself. Also, well, with boxing as a whole, you have your team, your corner, your coaches, but streetwise, you had to look after yourself. So I grew up in that kind of environment, and so that's how things developed. But always boxing was the center, the most important sport for me. And I wanted to get more involved in it, but I couldn't as a young man in this country, because my parents thought it wasn't a serious sport. It was something that just a waste of time, really. I had to get a proper job. It wasn't a proper job for them to be in boxing. So I spent most of my life just working different type of jobs, hustling and bustling. I left school without education myself, and then it was later in my life when I started taking it more seriously. And it wasn't when I got married and I had children and sons myself that I got more involved in the boxing for my sons, really, and helped them support their career, because two of them were amateur boxers, and then they went on to become professionals. And then one thing naturally led to another. It was like an evolution, if you like, in my development, and to the point where I wanted to support the community, especially in the climate of antisocial behavior, gang-related crime and things like this, until 2004. When in the area I was living and working in, there was every month for 6 months there was a youth fatality related to gang crime and knife crime. So I was working with a project and with the church community at the time, and we discussed it with the Metropolitan Police, and we asked them to help support the work that we were doing. And at that time, the borough commander was Simon O'Brien, who loved boxing himself, and we decided what was the best way to have a contact with the young people that was not sort of intimidating, that sort of like built bridges and things like this. And we decided on boxing because it was something, he had a street reputation. And so we used boxing as a platform to bring young people in. So we began very humbly at the beginning, meeting 2 times a week, found a hall that we can set a gym up. We affiliated to England Boxing, and we just developed from there. Everything started unfolding and growing from there. So from small beginnings, it grew to the point we have Edmonton Eagles now, 6 days a week. We're running. We're fully affiliated with England Boxing. I'm an England official. I wear different hats. I work in the professional side as well with the British Boxing Board of Control. I'm a promoter, manager, matchmaker, trainer second. So I wear all these strings to my bow. So I try and give something back as best way as I can.
So you're a jack of all trades and a master of all trades, I'm going to say as well. I'm not going to do the jack of all trades, master of none. It's interesting you say that your parents kind of didn't take boxing as a career path too seriously when it was something you were interested in. Is that a feeling and thought that's changed a little bit in the Cypriot community? I can think of a few amateur guys I know off the top of my head with kind of Cypriot roots. Is that changing a little bit in the Cypriot community, or has it changed since you were a child to now?
Well, it's changed a lot, because when I was growing up, they saw boxing as very brutal. Basically square on, just punch each other to the pole, and whoever the last man standing, and it was like not considered as something serious, and it wasn't prestigious, it wasn't supported, it was quite violent. They thought it was a violent type of thing. They didn't see the sports aspect of boxing, whereas now as things have developed, especially from we've seen the international boxers as well, the likes of Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones Jr., it's become a lot more technical, and it's more appealing, and it's got a good reputation now, and so the community embracing it. Also, it's financially a lot more successful than it was in our time. I mean, boxers now, the top end of the boxers, the top draw, the money they earn is amazing. So people are taking it a lot more seriously now.
Yeah, the public perception of boxing is quite an interesting point to comment on. Like I said at the start, we love boxing, and we want there to be a message that people can kind of get hold of and understand why we love boxing and how it can change lives. We don't need to go into the stories exactly too much, but we know of recent, in the last 12 months and 18 months, for various reasons, boxing has perhaps been slammed a little bit in the mainstream media. But there is something behind boxing, and I guess a club like this is a good place to see that. There's a lot behind boxing rather than perhaps the stories that the mainstream outlets kind of seem to be pushing at the moment, the negative stories in boxing.
Yeah. No, well, there's good and bad in everything, and that is how you look at it and how you use it. You can take a knife and cut bread, or you can use it to kill someone. It's the same instrument, same tool you can use. Depending on how you're using it, the person who holds it determines the outcome. So we use boxing in a positive way, because we have so many testimonials of people's lives turning around for the better. So if I can take a knife out of a youth's hand and give them a glove, or I can inspire someone to motivate them to do something positive, to channel their energy in a constructive way as opposed to a destructive way, I support that wholeheartedly, fully. And so we see the benefits of boxing in a sense as a sport. I think it's one of the most amazing sports. The fitness-wise, it's the most, if you excel to the highest level, it's one of the most fittest you can become in boxing, stamina-wise, focus and things like this. And basically helps with your self-esteem, helps with confidence, makes you all round a better person. And it's also, as I said, it's an individual sport, but it's a team sport as well at the same time. Because depending on who you have in your corner will determine a lot of outcomes, because there are more eyes to see and help you through your journey. And that's life. You can parallel that with life, because I believe truth is parallel. We see the four corners of the ring can be the four corners of the world, and depending on who you have on your side will determine whether you can become successful or become a failure. And when you get knocked down, it depends on people around you to help you get back up. And that's really, really important. So I see these benefits. So there is negative in all walks of life, in business, in different careers, but I find boxing helps more than the negativity that we see around us.
And I think, well, I guess this is something you'll agree with as well. I went in there and watched different ages, boys and girls of different ethnicities, getting to work, sweating, working away. I guess it's important to say as well that not everyone will end up competing. You might have some future British world champions in there, but like you said, the self-esteem aspect and other aspects, not everyone has to compete, but it's the other positives that boxing brings you that kind of we should be shining light on. Yeah, not everyone in there is going to compete, but it's not just about that.
That's correct. Well, boxing is a platform that helps you, if you can apply these principles, this discipline in other areas, in other careers and things like this in life, you'll achieve more than you can imagine. So it helps develop character, self-esteem and things like this, which are very, very important.
Yeah. And in terms of the way this place is run, I know, is it private grants that you would have had before to help the club run? I know a lot of the guys here will obviously be volunteers. It's not easy to keep a place like this running. You're a very big and well-known club around the Edmonton area, but you think of all the clubs around the country, a lot of them have been struggling. Just tell me about how it kind of works and the financials around it, because I know this won't be a simple thing to just keep running. There must have been a lot of bumps in this road.
There are a lot of bumps and a lot of challenges, especially to keep a project like this going. We've been running since 2004. We started in humble beginnings, small halls that we were using, to now we have our own centre in Montague Road. But it's been challenging, but because people see the consistency, the commitment, the sacrifice of all the volunteers, because it's predominantly more volunteers than anyone being paid to be here, that they support, because people see outcome. When they see something good produced, and for example, this area was quite a challenging area. There was a lot of youth crime around this area. Since the club has been here, that's been more or less eradicated, and the police have noted that, and statistically they can show that the crime rate has really reduced on an amazing level since we've been in this area. And this building has been transformed. It was a derelict building. It's been used now for something positive, giving a place for young people to come and use, not just young people, I'd say, but people from all backgrounds and all age groups. And they see the outcome, they see the benefits that these young people and the people using it have. For example, I'll give you one testimony, if that's okay. We had a young man, I won't mention any names, who was involved in a lot. He was arrested quite a number of times. He came from a challenging background. He was related, there was gang connections and things like this. But since he came before COVID to the club, he started taking interest. His life took a different direction. He saw that he had an option. There was different things in life he can do, not just one way. He didn't just have to conform with the mindset of the people around him. So coming to the club, his life to develop that, and wanted to become a boxer. We carded him as an amateur boxer. And then he competed in one of our shows. While he was competing, because the police heavily support what we do, there was a number of police officers there. One of the police officers noticed him and realized he was a young man that 2-3 years ago he had arrested on the street, and saw his life took a complete turnaround, and went up to him. Before he was arresting him, now he was cheering him to win. In fact, he won his bout. They came up together later on, took pictures, and that young man's testimony has gone into the police magazine as well, the police journal. And when the barrack commander came to the club to see us and see that what we do, he actually was here. They took a picture together, which before, the only picture he would have taken is a mugshot in the police. Now he's taking a picture celebrating his life turning around. And that, for me, that's the reward I get back, seeing that change. And that's not isolated incidents. There are many, many young people come here with no direction in life and find purpose and meaning in life and do something positive. And as you mentioned earlier on, they don't have to be boxers. Some of them, we train them out to be trainers. They do the first level in the England boxing training course, or they help in other ways. They help with the shows, setting things up, helping to put the chairs out, things like this. And they work as a team, and it's a positive thing. And so that's what we're happy to see, more and more of that. The most important, the way to get people's interest and involvement is inclusion, to be inclusive, not exclusive. So what we do here is when we put our shows, when we set our shows, and we get all the youngs, all the participants ready, what happens is we invite the families as a whole and we subsidize them. So we try and minimize any cost involved for them to come, so they can have a point of contact with the club, so they can come to the events, see their children perform, compete, and then we build relationships. And it's all about relationship building. Include them in the life of the club. It's not our club, it's their club, it's as a whole, we all work together. So basically educate and to have conversations, and we do motivational seminars and things like this, and we invite the whole families to be a part of these seminars at the same time. So that's how we get them to be aware that boxing is not a violent sport. It's in fact a disciplined sport, and it's about self-control and restraint, as opposed to just going crazy, just throwing punches. I had an interesting experience with one of the schools in the area, where when we were inviting schools to allow our coaches to go into the school and run courses for the children from primary school to secondary school. And one of the head teachers invited me in to ask me, they were not sure about boxing. It was a violent sport. The kids would get hurt and so forth. When after I'd spoken to them and told them the benefits of the sport, and that we don't really, when youngsters come to the club, we don't expect them to go in the ring just punch each other. We go through a process, and when they're ready, then we encourage them to spar if they are able to defend themselves and if they understand the nature of the sport. So it's not just about jumping in the ring, punching each other up. It's about the control, it's regulation and self-guarding. All these elements are very important when we're helping young people develop in life skills, and especially boxing.
Yeah. Boxing in schools, boxing in schools. I don't know how many times I can say it or anyone can say it louder, boxing in schools. Yeah, so brilliant. Like I said, I've taken a couple of videos which I'll put over this for people to see kind of what the club's doing and how you can kind of get that bustling environment here on a Tuesday night. A little bit back to yourself. So I just kind of look to my right and I see a picture of you with a man who is now the king. Is he a boxing man? Have you ever had a boxing chat? And tell me about how you met him.
Well, I've met him through my faith background because I'm part of an organisation which he is the patron of. It's an organisation, which is a church organisation, and I was invited to Highgrove's house for tea and coffee and things like this. And we speak about the nature of the work, more predominantly the nature of the work I do, the missionary work, the humanitarian work I do, not just in this country, but overseas. I help fund projects in different parts of the world. So that's how the connection is. So we met, he's really, open and he's encouraging and so forth. So he knows the work that we do. So does his son, Prince William. He knows the nature of the work I do. In fact, I received I was on the honours list in 2019, the Queen's honour list at that time. I received an MBE for the work I do in Enfield with young people, so they know about my boxing connection and things like this. So when I was at the palace receiving my MBE from Prince William, he was asking me about the boxing, the work that we do in our community, and he seemed, and I believe he's very interested in that, to empower young people for the positive, not the negative.
Yeah, because we hear about the Prince's Trust and the good work they do with funding different sports and different kind of environments for young people to thrive in. The Prince's Trust kind of pushing boxing, potentially something we could see in the future. I mean, it's been a great medal haul for us at the Olympics involving boxing. We've got so many big figureheads. Anthony Joshua is a perfect one of someone who's perhaps come from the wrong side to the right side using boxing. So a sport that the guys at the top know about and they are willing to push as well.
That's correct, yes. I think it's something that everybody now it's really top, it's really on the forefront. Boxing is high profile now, especially, as you mentioned, Anthony Joshua, especially with Tyson Fury, all these things, there's different channels now running boxing at the moment. You've got other so-called people involved in boxing. So it's something that people want to see because they've seen the benefit. I just go back to the outcome. People actually see the benefits in young people's lives, how they can develop and the good it can bring out of people and make them, better in the community.
I'm fine.